Hey everyone, Genome here with another subscriber contest entry. This entry will be for the YouTuber Comics with Bueller, and this is his 300 subscribers contest. Well, the rules he laid out are pretty simple. There's basically only two. One is name your favorite Todd McFarlane cover in comics. Two will be naming your favorite 80s movie. Being somewhat of an aficionado about the 80s and having grown up in that time, I believe that gives me a unique perspective upon the challenge. So, without further ado, let's get into part one. Okay, so for part one, we're going to focus on my favorite Todd McFarlane cover. I will be honest with you straight out front, he was never my favorite comic artist. Even though he's obviously a very, very talented guy, I just tended not to collect a whole lot from him, like some other people did. But nonetheless, I do have a few of his that I really liked, and I'll go ahead and give you my top three, and then give you my favorite. So my top three would definitely be the Incredible Hulk number 340 cover, a Spider-Man number 6 cover, and finally the Wizard number 1 cover. I have two of those, and I'll show you those here in a second. I don't have the Incredible Hulk number 340, but it's pretty sweet. And I'm not really even that big a fan of Wolverine, and he's actually featured very prominently on this cover. But the cover is so fantastic, and the scene is so, I don't know, timeless, that you just can't help but like this one. So that's a definite classic and one of my favorites that he's done. Now, as far as my two favorites from the ones that I do possess, I'll go ahead and show them to you right now. First, I'll show you Spider-Man number 6. And this was a pretty nice little mini-series, turning the Hobgoblin into Demogoblin, which is, McFarlane draws him very well, actually. Gives him a real nice demonic appearance. And finally, we have the Wizard number 1. A lot of people probably have never heard of this or don't have it, but Wizard was a little price guide and comics, I don't know, news publication that came out in the early 90s, and I had the first several of these that came out. I believe they're not in print anymore, but I think we've got a McFarlane interview in here for those that are interested. And I don't know, I think it's actually a really good cover by him. He doesn't focus so much on putting webs everywhere, so you can kind of focus a little more on the details of the costume and the robe and the little wand he's waving. But I've always liked this one. So I would say that of all the covers of his, my favorite was probably Spider-Man number 6, with the Wizard being a close second. It's a great cover. It's a good action side of Spidey. The webs aren't too obscene, like they can be on some of the covers. And Demogoblin just looks amazing. All right, that should take care of part 1. So let's go ahead and move on to part 2. My favorite 80s movie. Well, isn't that a tough one? Because there are so many greats in the 80s. I've actually reviewed a few of them on my channel. Just for frame of reference, I recently reviewed Amadeus. It's one of my favorite 80s movies. So, but if I had to nail it down, I'll do the same thing I did with part 1 and give you my top 3 favorites. And they would be Aliens, Predator, and Empire Strikes Back. I mean, those movies kind of just speak for themselves on how great they were. And not only were they great for, you know, the nerds such as myself, they were just great movies in general. Every one of them had great production values. They were all well acted and directed for the most part. And they generally withstand the test of time. You know, all these movies can still be watched today, and you don't feel like you're watching something too incredibly dated. But, as before, you have to make a choice. So, for this one, I'm going to have to go with Predator as being my favorite movie of the 80s. I remember being so hyped to see this, so hyped to see it, and then I couldn't see it in the theater. My parents wouldn't let me go see it. I think I was 10 or 11 when this movie came out, so yeah, they weren't letting me to go see this movie. Actually, I don't think I even knew much about it other than a commercial, but they still didn't want me going. Plus, it was rated R. So for those not in the know, back then, you know, hardcore action movies, or just action movies in general, really, and horror movies, they were rated R. They didn't have any of this PG-13 nonsense that we see today. They were just rated R. So really, you couldn't just, as a kid, walk up to the ticket booth and get you a ticket to go watch a horror or action flick. You had to get your parents to get you one, and my parents wouldn't give me one. But anyway, painful childhood stories aside, Predator is my favorite. It's got everything you want in an action film. It's got a lot of what you want in a sci-fi film. You have an otherworldly protagonist out there. For the action aficionados, you got a high-end special ops team that is gloriously unpolitically correct. This movie would never be made in its current state nowadays. No, there's no chance ever to see being greenlit. That's why a lot of the newer Predator movies have really been terrible. But I digress. The movie is just dripping with testosterone. Every character has their own little special quirk or catchphrase. They all have different weapons. Great care was taken to give them all even different camo. So they're all different, and it's just great. They all play off each other very well, and you really get the sense that they are up against something that is just beyond them. These guys are the elite of the elite of what Earth has to offer, and they got something out there that's just picking them off basically at will, it seems like. So you really get a sense of panic you start feeling with these guys. They're trying everything they can do just to stay alive, and it turns into a great chase movie. It's actually probably the best acting ever done by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not sure how much that's worth, but it's a good one for that. Every character was well acted in this. From Jesse Ventura to Sonny Landham, they were just all incredible. And Kevin Peter Hall was great as the Predator. He worked extensively with getting his movements just an incredible movie. It holds up well today. While there's plenty of action, it's not a brainless shoot-'em-up action flick. There is some nuance here to be had. As a sci-fi flick, it works well because the effects are fairly minimal, which is nice, and of course you don't see too much of the creature until the end, and then you see it in all its glory for extended periods, which is also a feat that's difficult to attain. And honestly, I think the creature looked better in the first Predator than it did in any subsequent movies, which is not just rose-tinted glasses. This is true. I think it just looked better and more realistic in the very first iteration. So that's once again just a testament to the care they put into this film, and one of the reasons that I believe it is my favorite 80s movie. And I'll tell you what, that's saying something, because there's a lot of great ones. Well, in any case, I'll go ahead and wrap this up now. Make sure to check out Comics with Bueller's YouTube page. Give him a like and subscribe while you're out there. Really, I gotta say, man, your grand prize gift there is pretty incredible. You really took out all the stops and made it a goal definitely worth striving for, so kudos to you, sir. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little dissertation of my favorite Todd McFarlane cover and favorite movie from the 80s, which was Predator, for those who skipped right to the end. If you like what you saw, shoot it over to my YouTube page. Check it out. I upload a couple times a week, time permitting, of course. And best of luck to all of the other contestants in this little contest that you're running. So once again, thanks for watching, and this is Genome, out.